You can start the countdown. You can start the final countdown. All right, this is the sound check portion of the podcast. So please give us a good sound check.
Yeah. How do we sounds?
English, motherfucker. Do you speak it?
Yeah. Unique New York.
We got Luna Girl. We got Dragon Buddy. We got Bronco Fett. Bronco Fett is officially out of Jason jail now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So now that the Mandalorian season is over, you know what you did, Tom. But you are forgiven.
He's been behaving himself.
Yes. So.
I do want to say that if you are in the All Things Star Wars chat from the YouTube channel, please, pretty pleased with Sugar on it, go over to the Gen X POV chat. That way we'll get all of our chat in one basket, as it were.
Yep.
And if you're listening to on Facebook, you're obviously connected to the internet. Go to YouTube.
Yes.
Subscribe to our channel. Get into the chat, and you will do it.
And you will do it.
Do it.
Oh, it looks like we got Solski. Oh, we got Julius. I'm your twin brother, Julius.
Solski's still at work, but listening. Well, that's good.
Excellent. Bronco Fett seems confused. I don't think he should be confused, but
you saw that I put the reviews in for the other show notes?
I did. So yeah, we'll read those when we get to the Christmas episode.
I actually did a bunch of work to our landing page on YouTube.
Yeah,
because I guess when you go to our YouTube page, it just had like a handful of videos, and that was it. Had like the banner, then a handful of videos. Didn't really have any like, it had a couple of the links on there, so I updated the links so you could actually, if you're listening to us over the YouTube channel or watching us on the YouTube channel, you should be able to go into the corner, and it has a podbelly.com link. It has a Spotify link, has an Audible link.
When did you do this?
This afternoon.
Okay, because I did notice this morning a bit of an uptick in our downloads for the Gen X POV audio feed. So I'm like, oh, wonder where this came from.
No, I messed around with that. Maybe it might have been before lunch. Yeah. So it's just something so that when they do go to the YouTube page, there's actually a little bit more data on there.
All right, Scott, what the hell's going on?
He's urgent care. Son of a.
Everybody okay? Don't like to hear that. But
glad you're listening. It can't be. Hopefully, it's not that bad. If you're on YouTube,
yeah. Hopefully, Kim's not on her deathbed, and Scott's like, "Well, I'm still gonna watch."
I gotta watch the guys. Gotta give them the like.
Yeah.
Yes, please hit the like button.
Yes, all of you hit the like button. All right, are we ready to get rolling here? Again, audio's good, I guess, guys.
Yeah.
And
you got your phone ready?
I got my phone, so text me, anybody, if my audio cuts out during the show. And in fact, I'm even going to turn my volume on.
What?
Yeah.
It's going to be annoying. You know how popular they are. Yeah.
Especially today.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're ready, give me the countdown and we will get started. Your toast.
It is my toast. To Jeremy Bullock.
To Jeremy Bullock. Rest in peace, good sir. The OG, the original Boba Fett.
That's right.
We lost him a few days ago now.
Yeah, I think it was Saturday. I don't know. It was like Thursday, I think, because it was poignant because the Friday with the Mandalorian episode where you get to see Boba Fett,
yes,
and the continuation of Boba Fett's story. Unfortunately,
the day after
he passes.
Yeah. But, so rest in peace, good sir. Now he was the guy. I've been seeing these pictures of him, and they're pretty good pictures of him. They're like headshots, Hollywood shots and whatnot. But he's also the guy when you see the behind the scenes footage from Jabba's palace, where it's the dude and the two dancers, and he's in the Boba Fett costume, but the helmet's off,
Right.
and he's got this big fucking 70s style mustache, and he's got like the pedophile haircut and the glasses. Yeah, that's the same guy, right?
Yep,
yeah.
Totally. And it's like, this is the guy?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay. It's fucking porno stash and everything else. But he was the original representation. And for all accounts, seeing all the stuff on social media after the fact, all the people that went to cons and like got pictures, and he was super, super interactive with the fans, really embraced the fact that Boba Fett was such a beloved character.
Yeah.
You know, for so little screen time. You know, that's probably the biggest part of all this, right? As we're going to talk about the Mandalorian today, and like it all starts with Boba Fett,
right? Yeah, because he was the original Mandalorian, so to speak, that we were all familiar with,
right?
And yeah, that just kind of exploded into what we're going to talk about today.
It just goes to show you, like, you put a cool helmet on a guy and get a cool costume with some weaponry, and you can create an empire from it.
Absolutely. So that being said, hello everyone, and welcome back to All Things Star Wars, the greatest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. I'm Mr. Jason Roskam. With me here each and every single week, the Darth Vader to my Palpatine, Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
You'll probably hear that a few times today,
Probably.
You know, and you've probably already heard it a few times.
I have.
But what are you now, like 44 or something?
This is my 10th annual 34th birthday.
Nice.
Yeah.
That would see, now you have to, that 10th going into the 11th annual would seem like, no, it's too much. Now I have to hit another number to get there.
Yeah.
But hey, you're only as old as you feel, right?
Exactly. And for the most part, I feel 24 most times. Yeah, shitty sleep notwithstanding, but we'll get into that next podcast. But
okay, are you gonna show everybody? You can.
That's all part of the next podcast.
All right,
I already wrote it in the notes because we're doing a twofer today.
We are indeed doing a twofer.
Yes, but you did mention the birthday thing. So yeah, I am 44, which is a much better number than 43. I gotta say, 43 is an awkward number. It's like a prime number. It's just, it doesn't flow. But 44 is kind of cool.
44 is cool, but then it turns into 45, and I can tell you right now, 45 overrated. Totally overrated.
And then anything over 45, you might as well just be dead.
Fuck it. You're halfway there anyway, so fuck it.
Indeed. Well, for me, the halfway point will be 45. That's because I'm shooting for 90. That's my goal.
Nice.
That's the end game for Jason. 90.
I'd be 86 is the number for me. That's pretty much the Martin average. Although my grandmother is still kicking. She's 94 years old.
Nice. 94.
All
right. Very good. So I don't even have to ask this, but I will anyway, because it's tradition and we have a specific flow on the show. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about the season finale of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, season 2.
Which was it requires its own dedicated podcast.
Oh yeah.
I'm so happy that it worked out, the timing of it, so that we could just do chapter 16 by itself. Yeah, because there is a lot to be said about what's going on with that and what's going on in the future of the Mandalorian too.
Oh yeah. And we talked about it a little bit last week when we did the Disney announcements, but by the end of this episode, we got even more new announcements.
So I'm going to just so we can get it over with, and then I can feel like I have some control over the matter.
Sure.
Are you just going to take your dollar now, or are we going to wait till a certain part of the podcast where
I just assumed we'd deal with it when we got there? But I mean, we can do it now if you want, since you brought it up.
So for those of you who weren't following, in the All Things Star Wars podcast, we have they're so crinkly.
I know, right? Why are they so crinkly like that? Must be the air in here.
They haven't been in a stripper's ass in a while. So here at the All Things Star Wars podcast, we actually have a tradition of doing some board bets, and this year's been pretty slow for the board bets,
right?
And so one of the board bets was,
I said, and this was early this year. I think this was probably when we did the first episode of Mandalorian of season 2. Yeah. I'm like, they're gonna bring Luke into the fold at some point. I didn't think it'd be this soon, but I made a declaration. We will see Luke Skywalker at some point in The Mandalorian. Dave said, no, you're a fucking idiot. You're a piece of shit. Nobody in their right mind would ever think something so stupid. So I could
very well have said all those things.
We made the $1 bet So we each plunked $1 on the mixer, and they've been sitting here for at least a couple of months.
Right.
But now they're mine.
Yes. So spend them wisely. Happy birthday. You won the fucking bet. And we'll, obviously that's kind of a spoiler, but if you're watching this episode, you are not interested in it. It's listen. We have a hard and fast rule in the Sidebar Cantina, which is our own, our private group for our regulars, which you can become a part of if you go to facebook.com/ I think it's / the Sidebar Cantina, right? Something like that. Anyway, search for Sidebar Cantina. You can be a part of that.
With a private Facebook group.
What you're doing while you're doing all the other stuff and going to podbelly.com because we didn't talk about that, even though it's probably supposed to. Anyway,
we'll get there.
Anyway, while you're doing all those things, we had a lockdown so that we can ensure that everyone in the sidebar would be clean, would be clean and not
from Philly. Don't worry.
Not give away any of the secrets of the Mandalorian episode.
Right. Basically, no spoilers.
And I'll tell you, the group's been really good. Some first offs notwithstanding, and Jason had to establish some rules.
We had to make an initial declaration.
Right. So the edict was put forth, and I believe the edict was followed from that point forward, which good job, guys. Yes. Thank you. But fuck me, just being anything on the computer. And dude, the Weather Channel had fucking shit about the Mandalorian on it. It's like you could not escape some sort of spoiler for this particular episode. So what I had to do is I had to fucking I'm on the crapper. Like, I'm going to watch it while I'm sitting here on the shitter and then finish it on the fucking television because I just had to squeeze. I couldn't wait anymore. Right. It's Friday morning. Everyone's fucking talking about it already.
See, I didn't have the luxury of that because Kristen and I have our routine where we watch it the evening, like Friday evening. Most of the time, one or both of us have to work that day. So we wait until that night. So I knew there was going to be some big shit going on. So I stayed off of all social media. I didn't even go on my Google News feed because, like I mentioned in previous weeks, my Google News feed, some of these fucking clickbaity sites will put the fucking spoiler right in the goddamn headline. You fucks. Ugh. So annoying. So yeah, I had to stay off of all that shit. I couldn't keep up with current fucking news, couldn't keep up on social media. I basically just had to go dark until Kristen got home and we got to watch it. But
yeah, and
it was worth it. And I had nothing spoiled for me this episode.
Yeah, I had what did I have? I did have there was a little indicator in there of a spoiler, but it didn't ruin the moment, thank God.
You don't need to thank me.
Nice. I don't know why.
What the fuck just happened?
I don't know. Siri picked up and then
did you Irish rename your Siri as God?
I did not. That would be fucking hilarious though.
Yep. Thank you, Lunar Girl.
So yeah, we're talking about the Mandalorian.
Yes. And
the season finale of the Mandalorian.
Yep. And we're really not going to do our usual shtick with our talking about our weeks and everything else. We're going to save that for the second podcast that we're doing today. We're doing the From a Gen X Point of View Christmas special. So if for some reason you're not subscribed to From a Gen X Point of View on either any podcasting app or YouTube, search those out and subscribe, because something else I put in the notes today, this is very well going to be the last All Things Star Wars we do for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, because when we decided last summer to pull back on Star Wars, we knew we'd come back from Mandalorian because it's Mandalorian. Yeah. And it was such a good fucking season. There was no way we couldn't do episodes.
Agreed.
But in the immediate future, Star Wars is pretty slim unless you count that High Republic stuff, which I don't know how good that's going to be and if it's even going to be worthy of episodes of the podcast.
That's probably going to be one of those. I envision I'm going to download the book or get the hard copy of the book. I'm going to read it before you get a chance to read it, and then it's going to be like, okay, is this worth talking about, or should Jason read this?
Right,
and then we'll go from there. I know our diehard followers for the Star Wars content will most likely be reading it, if for nothing else, to kind of like what we talked about before, not missing out on this opportunity for something that's never been talked about in the Star Wars universe. So we're going from something with the Mandalorian where it's like kind of right in the wheelhouse, like this after Return of the Jedi, and bringing all these people in and giving Star Wars nerds fucking nerdgasms for days, going something completely different. And who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, no idea, but it is the next big thing for Star Wars, at least until the Andor series comes out, and then Mandalorian season 3 and Boba Fett.
Right.
We'll get to all that, but again, this may be our last All Things Star Wars for a while, but Dave and I are always here each and every single week doing a podcast. If we're not here, we're on From a Gen X Point of View. So please go there, subscribe, leave us reviews, especially on iTunes and Audible.
Yep.
And yeah, we will suck your dicks for 5-star reviews.
We will indeed.
So,
excuse me.
That being said, I just wanted to give a quick recap of the High Republic stuff. So the first novel comes out January 5th. So we're not actually that far removed from the first novel. We're a couple of weeks away. And it's called Light of the Jedi. It's a full adult novel. On that same day, January 5th, like a young adult novel, a fucking children's book, and something else come out that are all High Republic. Doubt we'd ever read those. I'm sure we will get and read Light of the Jedi. The next day, I think on the 6th, the first comic book comes out that's also a tie-in. It's just called The High Republic. So I think that's a monthly comic. So you'll get one every month. After that, the next novel, the next adult novel is July 6th. So it's not like we're going to be getting a new book every month or anything.
Right.
So we get one and then 6 months later we get another.
Yeah, it's interesting to go through this explosion of Star Wars content. Like here's this fucking all this random Star Wars shit, right? They're throwing out there at one time before the season finale of The Mandalorian.
Right.
And then the High Republic. I mean, either they're opening the door for more High Republic stuff than they're letting on right now that they can release without having to worry about The Mandalorian kind of overtaking it, or they're just really shitty at their fucking
poor planning
on their part, which they have precedence for, right? Because look at fucking Solo.
Yeah,
look what they did with Solo and how they mismanaged the fucking release of that.
Oh yeah.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they're going to fuck that up. But
to be fair, the future past mid 21 is looking very bright, and it looks like we're going to have a steady stream of content coming out. But we're going to have a bit of a lull for 6 to 9 months.
Yeah,
leading up to that.
I guess it's enough to just get our appetites wet for it, or other things wet for it.
Yeah,
depending on if you're so inclined.
Right. So this will be the calm before the storm. One last thing before we actually get into the episode itself. Something that's been a constant of the show for the last couple of years is the Fantasy Football League that we have. The All Things Star Wars Fantasy Football, now the Sidebar Cantina Fantasy Football. We're in the playoffs.
Right.
And we are in the playoffs. You and I are playing this week. And man, talk about a roller coaster of a fucking game.
Tight as a penguin's ass right now for the game, our game right now, the semifinal game.
Yeah. And it's all dependent on like my one receiver tonight.
Yep.
You know, he has to get like his projected points, or I think he has to make projected basically for me to win.
Right.
If he gets anything less than projected, you win. So it's going to be like just a point or two difference.
It's one of those where it's like at 51%, I think, on your side, actually, because your projected would take you over. So at some points, like our scores, I know you had texted me a screenshot of it. So at one point, our scores were like 10th of a point close to each other, like with the projections. It was fucking insane.
Yeah, and there was a point where it was going back and forth. There was a point where you were like running away with it. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna lose. And then like I slowly started to come back, and then it was bouncing back and forth constantly. If you were refreshing our game all day yesterday, it was quite the roller coaster ride.
Indeed it was.
And again, it's coming down to the fucking wire. So, and at the end of the day, it's going to be one of us taking on the defending champion, Keith Lehman, because I'm pretty sure he's won his game handily.
Oh yeah, I think he blew up Kristen, didn't he? For the
no. She didn't make, or no, she lost to him last week. He's playing the Canadian Tony Ferrari. Yeah. So
the Canadian.
Yes.
Our Canadian contingent.
Yes.
Of the podcast. And just double check
with his beady eyes and his flapping head.
Yeah. Keith Lehman from Layman's Terms. You can find that on Facebook. He is winning handily.
Yeah.
And he still has a player left to go. It's pretty much in the bag, which is pretty funny because Tony Ferrari was running away with it early on in the season.
Well, he was last year too.
Yeah. And then you got to peak at the right time, man. I guess the CFL finishes a little bit sooner, so maybe that's just the Canadian aspect of it just kind of leaking out.
Must be it.
It doesn't help that Christian McCaffrey went down. Yeah, he was out for a little while, and
and he named his team after McCaffrey
exactly.
too. So
and he was Galladay last year, right? Wasn't he Galladay special? So yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight's game and hopefully being the victor.
Yeah.
And it'll be really interesting what happens next week.
Right. Because again, it'll be either one of us. One of us is going to represent the show in the finals.
Yeah. And
to try to take down Keith.
Listen, the NFL, the way it's set up right now, there's a lot of critical games that are going to be happening that have large playoff implications. So it should be good. It'll be fucking good. I hope it's me, God damn it, because I can't stand you when you win these fucking leagues because you get on the top of the mountain and you just you milk it for everything it's worth.
And this is bad because
I mean it's good for you. I'm already anticipating like what it's going to be like if Jason wins.
Have I not been very humble up to this point? Have I not been,
No, I don't believe you have been, but
I'm talking this season.
This season with your C+ fucking
yeah. How's that C+ working out for you, Yahoo? You fucks.
Anyway, we'll see. We should have had a board battle who's going to finish higher.
We should have done that.
Damn, think about that. Hey, speaking of, we're talking about the fantasy. We have a fantasy hockey league set up for the Sidebar Cantina this year, which you don't have to participate in. I see your face.
I won't be.
Jason doesn't know shit about hockey, but honestly, because of COVID and needing excuses to be able to have some sort of entertainment, and honestly, there's no skin in any of these games. Like, yeah. If I can learn a little bit more and be more engaged in the hockey season, then so be it.
Yeah.
I think we might have 10 teams.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the hockey league. So we're right there. We're right. Yeah. I think we have 8, maybe 9. So we're right there. Even with 8 teams, it'll still be good.
Okay.
And the hockey season is going to be a little bit shorter. It starts on January 13th.
Naturally.
So
fuck COVID.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So those of you who are participating in the All Things or the Sidebar Cantina Fantasy Hockey League, I'm looking forward to a good season. Tony Ferrari's in it though. I mean, that motherfucker, he does a podcast about fucking hockey drafts and shit like that. The dude should know more about hockey than any one of us, just from the fact that A, he's Canadian, B, he's Canadian. It's fucking hockey's their thing.
Is the Stanley Cup like a holiday up there? Where they?
I don't even know.
They shut down
do you
everything.
Do you remember being up in Ottawa and being up in Ottawa and the fucking river freezing and they would ice skate to work?
I don't remember that. I do remember seeing the frozen rivers and everything, but
that was the thing. Like, so we would go there for that satellite course, and you'd see people would be fucking ice skating to work. Fucking insane.
Fucking weirdos, man.
Absolutely insane. It's too fucking cold to be outside. When you go outside and the air hurts, it's too fucking cold.
Exactly.
Canadians are going to have their own division in hockey this year, the way that the divisions are spread out.
Really?
So, like, because I guess there's still border restrictions from going to between the U.S. and Canada.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Are they like stay out Americans? We don't want you in our fucking country?
More or less. And so the Canadian hockey players are going to have their own division this year. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Anything else before we actually get into the episode?
No.
Just cracking another beer. We're drinking some Guinness that Dave brought over. Some Guinness Drought Stout.
Yeah.
Drought? Is that how you pronounce it?
Draft.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, it's drinking Guinness is like drinking a birthday cake. And since it was your birthday, there you go. It's just not as sweet.
Still good though. I'm coming around to dark beers. I was very anti-dark beers. It wasn't until we went to the Adair Manor and I got a fucking Guinness on tap. They drew the little fucking shamrock in the foam on the top and I drank it. I'm like, ooh, it's actually really good.
The problem with starting a Guinness habit in Ireland is that you'll never get a better experience.
Probably not.
And that happened to me like back in, I don't know, I think it was like 99, my first time in Ireland.
Yeah.
And it was at this little fucking bar attached to a hotel like this. And it was just this old, there was the locals, there was the whole bit. And I had a half pint. So I was like, I didn't even like beer. Like, while I'm fucking here in Ireland, I have to do it. Had a half pint of Guinness. I was like, okay, I get it. I understand.
I would have loved to have met this young Dave Martin who didn't like beer and had never had a Guinness.
That was strictly rum and coke, Dave, back in those days.
Gotcha.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's talk about some Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. So, chapter 16, season 2, episode 8, whatever you want to call it. It hit on Friday, and it was huge. I mean, it continues the story of Mando and company going to Moff Gideon's ship to get Grogu, Baby Yoda.
Right.
Because, what was it, 2 episodes ago now? He got kidnapped by the Dark Troopers, and yeah, it's all been about like rescuing Grogu at this point. The episode title is The Rescue.
Right.
So, right off the bat, I told you this before we went on air, but I wanted to say this on the podcast. Every scene where fucking Mando and Boba Fett like just enter the screen together, it's, oh my God, it's so fucking great.
It's so aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
It really is.
I don't know what it is, but
well, even like we have the figures in here. Like we have a couple
the 2 Black Series.
We have Black Series figures unboxed just because
Mhm.
we're cool like that.
Yep.
And we have the Mandalorian, Boba Fett standing there with the Mandalorian right there.
Yep.
It looks fucking great. It's the epitome of what we believe, what our imprint is of a Mandalorian, right? Because we have the Clone Wars, you have Bo-Katan, you see them, and they're Mandalorians as well, but they're not that Mandalorian. Like with the way the armor's designed and everything else. It's very, very specific, and it's very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, just watching those two when they went into that bar in the beginning, when they went to go confront Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks, just them walking into the bar side by side. I'm just like, oh God, this is the greatest. And yes, it was better than sex, as Luna Girl put it in the chat.
Yes,
but
sorry, Dragon Buddy.
We're kind of jumping ahead though. So this episode started off with the Slave One chasing a Lambda class shuttle,
right?
And which, come to find out, had the scientist guy in it, who all the way from last season, who he doesn't seem like a bad guy. There's
a reason that he's kept alive,
right?
And being able to track him down and use him as the guy, like I think they did a really good job in the first season, in the first chapters, of making him seem like, hey, he's just the guy who's in it for the science and not necessarily there for all the killings and all the other things,
right?
All the bad stuff that's happening.
And he might even have like worked on Geonosis for all we know, because they even referred to him. Finally, we got the confirmation after they board the shuttle. It's like, oh, this is a clone scientist from the Imperial, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So we finally got that confirmation that he is, somehow associated with the Geonosians and the cloning and whatnot. What frustrated me about this, they board it, they take him after like killing the 2 shuttle pilots and whatnot. There's no like interrogation of him after the fact. We get no this guy except when he chimes in about, what's going on in getting ship and everything.
Right.
But at this point, I was expecting a scene where Mando's like, all right, motherfucker, what are you doing with Grogu? Like, why are you doing this shit? And nothing. We didn't get anything like that.
That's true. I mean, but I think you hit on it already. The idea was that this guy was, because he was one of, he's a bad guy, but he's not really the bad guy.
You are a bad guy.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
Exactly. So the fact that he didn't resist, it's like, yeah, I'll tell you whatever the fuck you need to know.
Camino, not Geonosis. Geonosis is where they started the Clone Wars. Yes. Camino is the thing.
Thank
you, chat. Everybody's correcting me. Yes, I'm an idiot.
It's all right. We just let it go and let the chat take care of it. Thank you very much.
That's what we keep you around for, quite frankly. So anyway, I was expecting, Mando to like fucking be beating him in the face. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you trying to harvest his blood and all that? But nothing.
No.
So,
what are you going to do? Waterboard the guy? I mean,
yes. Oh, I'm sure you have a space version of waterboarding, probably something even more horrific. But no, you get nothing like that.
Put some in your earworm or something in there.
Right.
Like, he did get his ear singed. I saw a meme or a screenshot of like when Cara Dune fucking blasts Homeboy in the face after he's like, pimping her about like, oh, I was on the Death Star or whatever.
Mhm.
And so when she shoots the dude in the face, like apparently it singed the homeboy's ear. So they actually have like his ear kind of like,
Oh, the scientist.
yeah,
Because he was right there.
mm-hmm.
Get the fuck out. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's great attention
the
to detail
fucking
too.
level of detail in this goddamn show is what we're going to talk about here in a little bit as far as longevity of the show. But fucking hell, it's there's little things like that. Those little attention to details is what's really just grabbing us by the fucking chest.
Yep. So when Slave One landed on the planet, did you recognize Bo-Katan's ship outside the bar there? Because I did. I'm like, that's Bo-Katan's ship. So, but I know a lot of people didn't recognize that initially because we're going to get into this later too. I watch a lot of reaction videos. Reaction videos are big on YouTube, and I watched a lot of people reacting to this episode of Mandalorian, and very few people actually recognize it as Bo's ship. So I guess just because of our level of nerddom and the fact that we fairly recently watched Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah,
I recognize it.
I have to, like, when I was watching that scene, I didn't focus on that.
Yeah. So when they walked into the bar and they saw Bo-Katan, I'm like, yep, I knew it.
Yeah, you knew. Maybe subconsciously I did see the ship because I knew that they were going to get them. Like, there was no way that they were going to pull this thing off without going and getting Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
And enlisting the help of other Mandalorians.
Oh, yeah.
There was no fucking way that they could have done it.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I fucking loved this team. Not even adding Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks into this, the foursome of Mando, Boba Fett, Cara Dune, and what the hell's her name? All right.
Fennec. Isn't it
Fennec? Yeah.
I don't know what her role
and the
is.
actress's name is
It's like Ming Ki Kwan or something.
Yeah, who, by the way, Kristen pointed out, she was the voice of Mulan in the real Mulan movie from the animated movie.
Oh no shit!
Yeah, she's Mulan's voice.
Oh,
so I had no idea.
I'm surprised Kathy didn't pick up on that when she saw that episode.
Yeah. Well, Kristen, I think it was bothering her because she knew her from somewhere, and then she ended up having to look it up, and she's like, "Oh fuck."
Ming-Na Wen.
Yes. And
thank you, chat.
Yeah. So
just fresh.
64. So anyway, they roll into the bar. Tell me if you feel the same way, but I feel like this scene where they rolled in and there was really a lot of animosity there with Bo-Katan. She didn't just like fucking embrace him. She's like, "Oh, Mando." No, none of that. Like, she really kind of brushed him off and then really like dug into fucking Boba Fett a little bit. I personally feel like this is planting the seeds of a bigger conflict between Mando and Bo-Katan when it comes into the greater Mandalorian storyline. Like, I feel like this was the first seeds that were really planted for this. She's starting to show kind of a not so noble side of herself.
Well, I think she was a jerk off in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like, she was not, like, her sister was the politician, the person that saw the good in things, whereas Bo-Katan was always she was the hard ass.
Yeah.
And she had a huge chip on her shoulder, that character, which she still carries, even though Mando helped her get the fucking ship and get the weapons and all the other stuff, because he chose to not follow her and follow that path. She probably wrote him off. Like, all right, fuck you then.
Yeah.
Like, it's not not carrying anything because he's fucking, a Mandalorian or a foundling or anything else. The animosity with Boba Fett, what I liked about that particular thing was the voice, when she describes how I've heard your voice 1,000 times.
Yep.
That was fucking like, you knew that's where the animosity was. Like, the clones turning, like, all the shit that's happened because of what the clones were initially and turned into, all started with this jacknuts fucking father being the guy.
Yeah.
Right. And misrepresenting probably Mandalorians. Like, she says it also in the thing, not all Mandalorians are bounty hunters.
Which I love that line, by the way.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a subtle dig, because for the longest time in Legends and in some current canon, anytime you would see a Mandalorian like figure, they were a bounty hunter. Right.
Same thing with the fucking Greedo figures. The
Rodians.
Rodinians.
Goddamn Rodanians.
Back to your planet
with your yub talk. So fuck, I forgot where I was going with that. So yeah, no, I really feel like with this episode, they've really planted the seeds of a greater conflict between Bo and Mando, Din Djarin, especially when we get to the Darksaber part later. But even this scene where she was like lashing out at Boba, they had their little fucking fight with him and Sasha Banks. She did some wrestling moves on him. I loved it when they did the double blowtorch on each other too. That was actually pretty good.
Then she finally was like, all right, knock it the fuck off. Like, what the hell? Meanwhile, like, can you imagine being in that bar? Like, hey, what the fuck's going on over here?
I know, right?
Oh shit.
It'd be like Baby Yoda with the fucking teacup. Just
exactly. Is that the one? That's the one. We didn't even talk about fucking these guys. We'll talk about that later.
Okay. But yeah, so eventually Bo agrees to come with them, and now we have our fucking crew, right? We got this whole crew that's gonna infiltrate Gideon's ship, and along the way we get the little monologue from the scientists is up talking about the Dark Troopers, how they've got this like 2-minute spin up time, but they're like super evil, and there's a million of them here,
and power comes into it, right? We've always joked throughout the, this is what 164 episodes, all things Star Wars. When Last Jedi came out, and we had this whole fucking the fuel issue with like, oh, now they're attacking like goddamn sailing ships and fucking just out of the range of the cannons, and are eventually going to run out of fuel. Power becomes an issue with this, because this strategy of, okay, this is how much we're going to have it time wise to be able to infiltrate this while these Dark Troopers are spinning up. So I think that initially when they started talking about that, like we already knew that Dark Troopers were droids. Right? Yeah. So that wasn't a revelation. Like we kind of, we knew that already. They're fucking being stored in that area. They kind of set the stage a little bit for when Mando ultimately fucking jettisons almost all of them into fucking space, which, spoiler alert, didn't work out so well.
Right.
But yeah, the fact that there were droids really didn't mean anything. Probably meant more to the characters in that particular scene than it did to anything else, because Mando hates droids to begin with, and the fact that there's going to be all these motherfuckers chilling in there, like, it just makes it that much more of a ripe target.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, even going into this, like, okay, here's the thing, here's where we're going to enter, and we're going to do this bit. I might be fast forwarding a little too far, but as they take the Lambda shuttle and they're fucking flying it into the opening where the TIE fighters are coming out of.
Yeah.
Why not do more damage while you're in there? Like, that whole sequence kind of threw me off a little bit. It was my beloved TIE fighters were.
Yeah. And watching those scenes, by the way, where they're fucking coming out and then they're launching, I'm like, Dave's got to have a raging heart on right now.
Oh my god, it was so good. Oh my god, it's so good. Yeah, the guy's in there fucking pre-flight, and and you see, like, as it's moving, you see him moving around in the cockpit. It's fucking great. Just fucking great.
Yeah, I knew you'd love that scene.
Oh fuck yeah. But yeah, so the whole thing, it's a good plan. Yeah. You have a Lambda shuttle, right? This idea that,
because clearly the Empire has learned nothing. If you're in a Lambda shuttle, you can just like land anywhere.
Yeah, it's an older code, sir,
but it checks out.
Clear it. Anyway, I think I fast forwarded through something.
No, really, it was just their battle plan, just them talking about how they're going to do it, and then they put on their little show with Boba chasing the shuttle as they're heading towards Gideon's ship, which I think Gideon saw through it right from the start,
pretty much. And you know what? Never mind. I'll bring it up at the end.
Okay,
I'll bring it up at the end.
And then it was really just a huge action sequence for quite some time as they're just plowing through the fucking ship. They're shooting stormtroopers like crazy.
Yeah. So there was some, like, as we talked about, kind of this response to the haters. Like we'll
get there.
The idea that the stormtrooper armor. I mean, I had the same thought that everyone else had. Like, why the fuck aren't they just in a goddamn uniform if it's going to protect them so little?
Yeah,
there's no allusion to like hypersonic weapons or something like that, where this, like, we know the stormtrooper armor is ineffective because we've seen it before. Like, it is really ineffective, like exploding when gets hit type ineffective, which I love. I love the idea that, like, it's the stormtroopers not just being compromised because it fucking hit its head on the fucking thing coming through a doorway, like you'd had in A New Hope. There are there's damage being done, and that's why they're dead. But I think there's too much damage. Like, what is the? This is beyond the uniformity of what a stormtrooper is. There's really no point at all. There to call it armor is like it's only armoring them from rain. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
what is it protecting them from?
I mean, well, you think about the whole purpose of the Empire and even the First Order beyond that. It's about uniformity.
Right.
But
at some point, you have to wonder, like, even Gideon, because he talks about he took the or the scientist, right? He talks about they took the weakness of the Dark Trooper out, and that because that was the human.
Yep.
Right. Because it was trying to keep the human alive.
Mm.
So it's just one of those things where like these stormtroopers are getting fucking flayed left and right, and it's just all right. Their fucking armor is completely useless.
Yeah,
just completely no purpose to it whatsoever.
But on the other side of that coin, you've got the Dark Troopers, which when you get the scene where Mando fights the one-on-one, you get the feel for how fucking powerful these things actually are, because we haven't seen them in combat up to this point. It was just them swooping down, grabbing Grogu, and fucking beating feet back to the ship.
Right.
So now we're seeing them in combat. One thing that I've been hearing a lot is a lot of people calling them like a Terminator ripoff, like, oh, they're just like the fucking Terminator, right? The T-800.
Yeah, I can see that. Red eyes.
Yeah. And, pretty strong, fairly invulnerable to everything except for Beskar, apparently, because Beskar is what defeats everything.
Yeah, having a fucking Staff of Ra, fucking Beskar stick, and finally figuring out that, hey, if I stab this thing with it
in a stabbing motion
like this. I did like that sequence because it showed, again, Mando gets his ass kicked in most episodes, like one way or the other.
Yeah, we've established that.
But the fact that the armor was holding its own against the firepower of this thing, and really it's just a matter of Mandalorian staying alive long enough to find some sort of weakness.
Right, because like if he had been in any other kind of armor, his skull would have been fucking crushed.
Would have been.
When he had him pinned against the wall and he's just boom beating on his fucking head
and waiting for the fucking shit to start cracking.
Yeah, I was really expecting to see it start to buckle a little bit,
like get a dent in it, like Boba's helmet.
Yeah,
have something. No. Apparently, the pure Beskar is the shit.
Yeah. So yeah, he eventually figures out, if I stab it, like you said, with this Staff of Ra, it can actually destroy it. And then he just fucking, like you said earlier, hits the fucking cargo bay door, and just all of the rest of the troopers just
open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Yeah, and they all just float up into space. Like, oh well, that's the end of that chapter.
That's fucking brilliant. Good thing you had all them.
Yeah. Oh man, but
until later. I like Don rock paper Beskar.
Indeed.
Yeah. Paper still could cover Beskar though. Paper
fair.
Covers rock, or doesn't it? What a bullshit game. How the fuck did that even start?
I have no idea.
Anyway.
Ultimately, Bo and crew take over the bridge. No Gideon. Mando gets to Grogu's cell. There he is. Darksaber like on fucking Grogu.
Which I think every person in their right mind knew that that's where Gideon was going to be. It's like,
exactly.
Okay, shit's hitting the fan. He's going to be going after the child. That's the point of all this. So I'm going to go ahead and go over there.
Yeah.
The dude has this. I don't know. I don't want to call it Force-like, but he's obviously, his abilities are almost Thrawn-like.
I was just gonna say that, yeah,
because he has this idea that he knows every step, every possible outcome. He's already got it figured out. So it seems like he's almost predicting the outcome.
Right, and that's what makes a good villain, somebody that can kind of stay neck and neck with your hero, right? Because if it's just some fucking villain who's just a fucking jerk off that you can just like brush away, then why do I care?
See, and it's funny, talking to a guy, one of the engineers had called me today and was asking me about the episode, and he was talking about how Moff Gideon, like in season 1, how it just seemed like he was entirely too stoic, like very little animation to his face and everything else. But I think as the character, as Moff Gideon, that's the guy. Like, this is the closest guy we've seen in Star Wars to Thrawn.
Yeah,
in my estimation. Doesn't have the, like, because even Palpatine has this level of fucking emotion, when he fucking goes off in the throne room, all that shit. Thrawn, you get some hints of that in the books, like where he's having some battles, but for the most part, the steady. I know everything before it fucking happens. I know how to fucking beat anybody.
Yeah,
that's Gideon as he sits there.
Right, and at the same time, he's got this real manipulative side to him, which we see later on. Which I gotta say, the character of Moff Gideon is really growing on me, and he's been presented, even though at the end of this he got captured. Like he's presented himself as a legit villain and somebody to contend with,
and captured.
Yes,
not killed.
Right,
which I think is going to be important for next season when we start talking about what we think is going to happen next.
Yep. So ultimately, this leads to a hand-to-hand combat battle between Gideon and Mando. Gideon's got the fucking Darksaber. Mando's got the Beskar staff. Did you notice? Talk about the detail. Even though they telegraphed this earlier in the episode, they said that the Darksaber can cut through anything but Beskar.
Right.
So, Mando's got the staff. Gideon's like holding the Darksaber against it, but the longer it was against the staff, you'd see the red.
Yeah, it was starting to heat.
Yeah, so it wasn't 100% just invulnerable to the Darksaber. You know that over time he could have potentially cut through the fucking Beskar.
Right. Which sidebar, did you see the fucking Hasbro released the Black Series Darksaber is out?
No,
it's like $250, dude. But holy shit. Big Swede sent me a message today. He's like, "Oh, did you see this shit?"
Mm-hmm.
And it looks pretty fucking good.
Did he buy it already?
I will not go on any medium and say that
no official record
that he would do such a thing, because obviously that's a lot of money, and he wouldn't just spend money so frivolously.
Right, because us Star Wars fans never do anything like that.
Never do anything like that at all. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know, but it looks fucking good for the Black Series ones are good representations of these things. Anyway, we play with them at Nick's house because he had his Dark Series versions of the lightsabers, which I really like. I still want one so bad.
Oh yeah, they're great.
I want the blue one though. I want the baby killer.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Anyway,
moving on. Ultimately, as we expect, Mando bests Gideon in combat, and he takes him up to the bridge. So the scene where he walks onto the fucking bridge, Mando's got the Darksaber at this point. He's wielding the Darksaber.
Right.
And you could already see the look on fucking Bo-Katan's face.
Yep.
She's like, fuck. And then you get this great dialogue with Gideon, and he's kind of stirring that pot a little bit more.
Yeah,
where he's explaining to Mando, it's like, oh, you beat me in combat. You can't just give her the Darksaber. It has to be won through combat. And Bo's like, yeah, he's right.
Which
okay. So
now we have to come to the point.
Yes, which everybody's talking about it.
Yes.
The memes are everywhere.
This was one of the things Friday when I talked to Big Swede. This is one of his top 2 things that he thinks was wrong with this. Because you see it in the memes. Sabine basically turns over the fucking Darksaber to Bo-Katan.
Right,
so
because she got it from Maul, right? In Rebels.
Yep.
Hands it over to Bo-Katan. She accepts it. No harm, no foul.
Right. Now you're the leader of Mandalore. Mandalore. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then now all of a sudden it has to be won through combat. So here is my response to that and to all of the haters. We don't know what the fuck happened after that.
True.
For all we know, Bo-Katan came back to Mandalore. She's like, I got the Darksaber. I'm your ruler. And everybody's like, who the fuck is this non-combat winning bitch with the Darksaber? Fuck you. And they immediately blow her off. And she's like, no, but I got... And they're like, no, fuck you. You didn't win it through combat. We're not listening to you. Piss off. And then the Empire rolls through and fucks Mandalore.
So here's what I think is kind of the nexus of that. Maul, not a Mandalorian, right? Sabine besting Maul, or however that comes to be, where Sabine comes like, okay, Sabine is a Mandalorian, like genetically a Mandalorian, not a foundling or anything else, right?
Yes.
So Bo-Katan, same. Being of pure, like they're pure-blooded Mandalorians, right? So maybe being able to hand it between them can be done through, like, okay, the family of Ren, the family of Katan, Like, okay, this is a thing. Now we're going to do this, and papers will be written, and fucking babies will be kissed. All the other shit, right? Mando's a foundling, right? He's a Mandalorian because he was brought into this thing. It's kind of a cult. It's a separate
the
thing.
Children of the Watch,
right? It's a separate thing. So that may be the sticky wicket where Bo-Katan's like, fuck. However, here's what I think is going to happen. I think he's just going to there's going to be a situation where she's going to just fucking end up taking it from him. Like, not by force. Like, this, he's going to continue to offer. He's like, look, bitch, I don't want this fucking responsibility. I just lost the fucking thing that's basically been keeping me alive for the past fucking year, right? That thing is gone now. I have nothing to fucking do. I sure shit don't want to carry around this fucking Darksaber, which the Empire and all you fuckers are coming after. No, I don't want this. Fucking here. Just take the shit. I'm going to put it on the table. I'm going to leave. See ya.
There's no way this is leading to something like that. They've planted too many seeds. I guarantee that they've already signed Katie Sackhoff for the entire 3rd season of Mandalorian.
Sure.
I really feel that's where they're going with this. Maybe they don't end up fighting each other, but there's no fucking way. It's just he's going to hand it over to her, and
he's not going to. I don't think he's going to be the ruler of Mandalore. Like you're not going to be in a fucking room full of Mandalorians. He's going to be like, all right, I got the shit, and they're all going to be like, fuck, that's the guy. Then I think what you're going to have. This is what. Well, you know what? Put a pin in that.
Okay,
that's going to lead me to what I think season 3 is going to look like.
Okay. Well, then we'll finish this episode. After this back and forth, we don't really get a conclusion to this because all of a sudden we hear the whoop, 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 the alarm. It's like, oh, fuck, we've got more incoming. How many life forms? 0. All the fucking Dark Troopers are coming back. It's like, oh, you blew them off into space, but they got
jetpacks.
Yeah.
They're fucking Iron Man fucking suits on.
Yeah, so they are just going to come right back around, and now we're in trouble.
Yes.
This whole fucking scene where they're slowly marching to the fucking bridge, and then they stop and they're beating on the fucking walls. That was some tense shit.
It was tense. I think it was a little overly dramatic, like the Gestapo marching of the fucking. Why would you need that? Like, is that a truly defensive formation? Like, strategically,
I mean,
is this the best way? Why didn't they come through the fucking windows of the bridge? I mean, unless the idea was that they can't kill. They can't kill Moff Gideon.
Right.
It's probably it's more like RoboCop, right? With the fucking
the Prime Directive.
The Prime Directive.
Yeah.
So they can't fucking kill Gideon. So it's like, all right, we can't just compromise the bridge or just blow up the whole fucking ship. So we got to punch our way through the fucking door. Like, okay, fine.
Well, it was very intimidating, and I felt, because we saw how fucking crazy that one-on-one battle was between Mando and the Dark Trooper. I was very nervous at this point as they were trying to pound their way in. Sorry, I just got distracted by somebody in the chat.
Yep.
So, and then of course we get, as they're all fucking waiting at the door. They've all got their guns pointed at the door, basically waiting to get just fucking shit wrecked.
Yep.
We hear an alarm again, and we hear a ship coming by, and whoom, a single X-Wing flies by. And they're like,
how to respond to that.
everything all right over there?
That's, for some reason, fucking Siri on my watch keeps wanting to talk.
So, as soon as they said a single X-Wing, I fucking knew. I don't know at what point it became apparent to you, but the second they said that it was a single X-Wing coming in, I'm like,
it was Luke's X-Wing.
Luke.
I mean,
it's got to be Luke.
It was Luke's X-Wing, and I didn't want to believe it. I really didn't.
Yeah.
It could have been. They still could have fucking thrown something in there because obviously we've seen X-Wings in the series, right? The New Republic, but it was Luke's X-Wing. I mean, there wasn't a doubt, and that you could see R2 clearly.
Yeah, and then it immediately went to a shot of Grogu, and you see his head kind of turn, and you can tell he can feel something going on in the Force. So it was very apparent at that point that at a minimum it was a Force user.
Right.
Those of us in the know knew it had to be fucking Luke. And then we get a great shot. First, it starts on the black and white monitor, right?
Mhm.
You see somebody with a lightsaber starting to fucking chop down these dark troopers. So it's like, okay, they've got a lightsaber, right? It's probably Luke, but don't know for sure. Then you get another shot in real time, green lightsaber, and it's like
Green lightsaber on a black gloved hand. That it was Luke.
Yeah.
There was no doubt. He didn't. At that point, we didn't need the reveal where he pulls the fucking thing back.
Yeah, we all.
As soon as you see that, for me, it was the green of that lightsaber
Mhm.
was as brilliant a green as it's ever been in the fucking Star Wars universe.
Yep.
And the hand, the fucking gloved hand.
Yeah, that was the most dead giveaway.
Yeah.
If the green lightsaber didn't do it for you, the gloved hand should have.
Right. Now, I'm going to say something that's probably not that controversial, but there's a lot of people that like to compare this scene to the Vader scene in Rogue One.
I have heard that, yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. Vader fucks those people. There's like, these are human beings.
Yeah.
Right? These are human
Not
beings, the
droids.
rebels, not fucking droids. He fucking opens up the giant can of whoop ass, fucking picking him up in the force, pinning him against the ceiling, cutting him down. That fucking scene out of Rogue One.
That was like a horror movie is what that was.
It was fucking phenomenal. And I
Yeah.
loved every single second of it, that erection inducing moment.
Mhm.
This was good. This was good. Like
Yeah.
to see him just fucking mow through these guys. Like, cause okay, this is Luke. This
Yeah.
is post Return of the Jedi. So he's feeling himself a little bit, right?
Mhm.
He's the guy,
Yep.
right? So he's tearing through these guys, but it wasn't as like people drew that immediate comparison. I just don't think it was as impressive. I think if
yeah.
anything, they probably drew it out a touch too long. I mean, if I'm going to be
yeah.
critical at all about this fucking episode, it's like you probably could have made this 5 seconds shorter
Mhm.
and it still would have had the impact. What I don't know what I would have liked to have seen is him put the fucking lightsaber through the blast doors, like circa episode 1.
Right.
Like
right.
fucking start cutting the blast doors open and then Mandalorian going like, oh no, fuck, dude, open the fucking doors.
No, I agree. They did stretch it out quite a bit, but this was one of those things. You talk about fan service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about fan service, expectations, thing like that. This was what everybody was kind of hoping for from the sequel trilogy, right? Those of us who are big time Luke fans were expecting at some point to see Luke roll into a scene and just kick ass the way we knew our Luke could roll in and fucking kick ass.
Right.
And we never really got that. Even when he did his projection with Kylo Ren and all that, it was never really the same. This was finally that scene for all of us hardcore fans that we got to see our Luke, fully trained Jedi Master in fucking action, just wrecking shit.
Yeah, and I see there's a post in the chat from Just Fresh. He's talking about thinks Luke's scene is more of a parallel than a direct comparison. His scene inspired hope rather than induced fear.
Great point.
I disagree. I think the idea that this is still we talked about it when we did Return of the Jedi, right? Go back and listen to our review of Return of the Jedi.
Mm.
Luke was meant to be intimidating. He was meant to, like, this is where those dark side elements, when he's choking out Gamorrean guards,
Yeah,
when
wearing all black.
he's wearing all black. This is the same Luke. This is the same Luke who had those tendencies. Yes, but 10 years earlier, it saved his fucking father from fucking, whatever, or, there's obviously he's the good guy, right?
Mhm.
But I think by rolling in all black, he's still making a point. He's not Qui-Gon.
Right.
He's not this Jedi that's going to be wearing like these plain robes.
Or Obi-Wan or
Yeah.
anybody else for that matter.
He's still in all black. He's still with the black fucking tunic, and his point of being there was to fucking intimidate. Whoever he ran into, he wanted them to be a fucking afraid.
Mhm.
And that was the point. I think otherwise you want to bring Luke into that because we only see Luke like what's the next version of Luke we see, right? It's a guy more like the Luke from fucking standing there on Luke Island.
Yeah.
Right? It's just somebody who's taken on a more traditional role as a Jedi Master, like more the dress and everything else.
Mhm.
The dude in all fucking black, that dude had huge issues that he was still dealing with the dark side.
Yeah, he's not fucking around.
All right. And again, this might be a little bit of fucking because we know in the sacred text
The sacred text.
that in expanded universe, he basically gets fucking ate up by the dark side.
Yeah.
And so there might be a little pouring out, but I think it was deliberate. I think you wanted Luke. They wanted Luke to look like the Luke of fucking Return of the Jedi on purpose, not just the way he was dressed in the robes, but it also made the face look better too, because you can. It's that age of Luke.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about the face here in a minute, but yeah, no, he rolls in and he's wrecking shit. The best part that everybody seemed to really like was when he fucking force crushed the droid.
Oh yeah,
right,
yeah.
So he's cutting them all up, and then all of a sudden it's down to the last one. He's just like,
yeah, you just implode that motherfucker. It was. Don't get me wrong. It may sound like I'm shitting on it. It was a good scene. It was definitely like you get the goose pimples, and you're fucking just like, oh my god, it's so fucking great. If you're going to have this Skywalker introduction, you want it to be in a situation like this, as opposed to just fucking showing up at the fucking cantina on Mos Eisley,
right,
and like pulling up next to fucking Luke Skywalker. I think that would have been just a huge dud.
Sorry. So yeah, doors open. Luke pulls off the hood, and it is technically Mark Hamill's face there, obviously CG'd.
Right.
So this was my biggest issue with the episode, was their CG Luke. I don't know what the fuck is going on at Lucasfilm. I really don't. The technology is out there to do this shit better, but I've seen it now with Leia from Rogue One and now Luke. It doesn't look right.
So you had posted in the cantina earlier. There was a comparison, like it's side by side. Basically, it was deep fake, and then you had what
right.
Lucas did.
Yeah, because I knew this was going to happen.
Right. Me personally, I think the what we saw in the show is better than the deep fake, at least from a synchronization standpoint. I get it. There's like a smoothness to the deep fake that's really, really impressive.
Well, and it doesn't look CG.
I mean, how do you truly differentiate the fact that you know what this image is supposed to look like and you know it's CG? Like, at what point does it, like, if it's not the actual person, like how, and you know it's CG, how do you make that differentiation?
Well, I don't know. I think the deep fake just looks so much more realistic.
Yeah.
Right. And we've talked about this before. There are some deep fakes out there that are fucking insanely done.
Yeah.
And it's just by fucking idiots on the internet who just happen to have some software. How the fuck does this multi-billion-dollar corporation not have that fucking ability to do this? It blows my mind. And like you said, I posted that video. Somebody's already done a deep fake 3 days later.
Yeah. And
somebody's already done a deep fake. And to me, it looks better than the bullshit that they presented to us in this episode.
I see. I didn't have an issue necessarily with it. I mean, I knew it was CG. I think they did a good job with it. Just like I knew Leia was CG. I knew Tarkin was CG. I mean,
right.
But the fact that it was CG didn't necessarily take me out of it. I was like, okay, they got a really good body double, somebody with the same head shape and everything else. Like,
sure.
They had the right guy to stand there to put the fucking Luke's face on him. And I think they did. There's a smoothness to the deep fake that is more reminiscent of the Return of the Jedi, not 10 years older Luke. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think they deliberately had some aging to the face to make it seem like this is not the same guy.
Right.
Like, it's not a cut and paste off of this other guy. This is somebody who's aged a little bit. And I think that like I said, I've watched it a few times. I watched them the deep fake pretty close because they do a real good shot. And I didn't have as much of an issue with that. I think they did a great job. But I see your point though. Like, people on the internet can make there's a fan film that somebody posted in the cantina the other day that's really, really well done. People have access to this material. They buy this commercial software and have the time to sit there and fucking manipulate it. You got to imagine at Lucasfilm, with all the shit that they've already been doing, they're not going to buy the same commercial software. They're going to do it on their own. Right.
But you would think that the thing that they can do on their own is going to be better than the shit that's already out there. And I just feel like it's not.
That's like saying all the military technology is going to be better than fucking out in the real world.
And we know better.
We know better.
Yeah. Oof. All right. Good point. We'll just leave that there. I loved seeing Luke, really did. I'm so happy they did this. But that being said, we're going to take a very quick break
I'm going to explode
and be back after this word from our sponsors. That was very sudden, his need to pee. So we will finish this thought when he gets back. Thank you again, Luna Girl, for the mic update. It is much appreciated. Reactor. Yeah, Bronco Fett nailed it. Civilian guns better than military guns. You're not wrong.
Oh my god.
You all right?
That was some Tom Hanks fucking League of Their Own pee. Right, just then. Woo!
Nice.
All right. Sorry about that.
Ivo G thinks I need to get Darth Maul face tattoos next. How about no, Scott?
Oh, no.
All right, we good?
Yeah, I'm good now.
All right, give me a countdown.
Ready, set, go.
And we're back. You feel better?
Yes.
All right, that was
Amazing.
very sudden. I didn't realize you were struggling so bad.
I've been struggling probably for about a half hour, like pain.
Sorry about that.
Pain.
So, anything else on CG Luke before we move on, or just Luke in general? Seeing him in this episode.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to bring Big Swede's second issue with this episode.
What is this? The Big Swede show now?
Well, I mean, he brings up valid points, and he's one of our loyal guys.
All right, fair enough.
I think it's a good talking point, and I want to give him credit.
All right.
I would never do that for you. I think his issue is the fact that a Skywalker has been brought into this. Now, the reason for the board bet was the fact that the discussion we had was this idea that Skywalker somehow is going to intersect with everything that's going on just because he exists out in this on this timeline, and that when all this stuff is going on now, that Jedi involved and everything else, that it was kind of a foregone conclusion,
right? Because of the nature of Grogu and the fact that he's strong in the Force,
right? Luke's primary instructor was Yoda, right? So there's going to be this bond to whatever. We still don't know what kind of being this is,
whatever the species name is.
So I think the issue for some is the fact that you had the Mandalorian, you have 2 seasons, was doing perfectly well without bringing a Skywalker into it. Why invoke the Skywalker name in something that was doing so well without it? We had this, and I think there's a lot of people out there who go like, we had the Skywalker saga. This story's been told. It's complete, according to the people that completed the story,
right?
Allegedly. The idea that you're bringing a Skywalker into this just kind of, it starts. What I think is happening is that there's people that don't necessarily think the sequel trilogy did Luke justice.
Oh yeah,
and the idea that
that's a given.
You're going to bring him back into the storyline, knowing full well that he doesn't end to anybody's liking. I think it's open up a scab. I think for some. If you were going to do it, like if you're going to have Luke be the guy, right? It does make sense, like the logic of it, right? We know he puts together a fucking another Jedi Academy, right?
Right, because the second Grogu picked up that fucking rhinoceros with the Force in episode like 2 or 3 of the fucking show, you knew some shit with the Force and Jedis and probably Luke was gonna come into play at some point. You had to have known that.
Yeah, it's I'm kind of I was with those people that were talking that we can operate in this universe, in this galaxy, without incorporating a Skywalker into it at all.
And I don't disagree, but they're the ones that chose to put a fucking Force user into this show from episode 1. So that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, and look, we have to. I think, and I don't have a problem with the way that they did it, because the way I think they're going to go forward with this, I think you're not going to see there's not going to be a lot of Luke Skywalker.
No, I think we might see him one more time throughout the course of the series.
Yeah, maybe. In a scene where I think he's going to be like, "Hey, you need to come get your boy. He's being a problem in fucking school, right? He's not doing well with the remote learning. You're going to have to come in and fucking go get your boy."
Yeah.
But the idea that Luke is the guy, there's a lot of logic there. It makes sense. He's really, we know Ahsoka exists. Ezra's out there existing, like in the timeline, but they're not the Jedi Masters,
right?
Like Luke Skywalker going forward. And again, I think there's an expanding universe fucking overlaying on some of this, but he is the guy. He's the guy that's supposed to rebuild the Jedi Order, and why wouldn't he be the guy to answer this call?
Right. But sidebar, logically, wouldn't Ahsoka be stronger, more well-versed in the Force than fucking Luke at this point in time?
I still contend that Ahsoka's not a Jedi.
She's not a Jedi.
Right.
But she is pretty extensively trained in the Force. She was an apprentice of a pretty powerful fucking Jedi at one point.
They were very specific about their verbiage. They said he needed to go to a Jedi.
No, I'm not talking about Grogu at all. I'm strictly talking about the people who are alive in the fucking Star Wars galaxy at this point in time. Ahsoka, to me, would seem far more versed and far more powerful with the Force than fucking Luke.
Well,
unless he's just got that fucking genetic gift, you know.
Well, I think there's probably some genetic gift there. You know, he is the fucking the virgin born, right? But and then we come to find out there's a lot of the Palpatine influence and all that too. But I think Ahsoka's when she cut her ties to the Jedi Order, I'm sure Luke knows she exists. As we're talking about this timeline, right? They exist in parallel.
Yeah.
I'm sure Luke probably approached her and said, "Hey, as I rebuild the Jedi Order, you're the perfect person to, you've been classically trained. I have not. I need to fucking start training Jedi. Come and help me out." And she probably was like, you know what? No. I'm going to go ahead and go with no.
Well, sidebarception. I think.
I'm not sure I understand.
Why? What is wrong with your watch?
Stop listening.
I think in the Ahsoka series, we are going to see some type of dialogue between her and Luke. I think Luke will appear in the Ahsoka series.
See, but
there's no way you can't have that discussion. Fucking Anakin was Ahsoka's master, and now Luke is Anakin's son. There is no way those two don't have some sort of a conversation, meeting, whatever.
I can't say that it can't happen, because it happened, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think it would happen with Luke coming in here. I put a whole $1 on it, and I will not put any more money down on it, because
that's really what I was driving at. I was trying to get another $1 from Dave.
I can't not argue that logic. I think it's whatever this storyline for Ahsoka is going to be heavily involved with Thrawn, and I think I'm more worried about seeing what are they going to do with Ezra and all these other things. And Luke can be out there in parallel. Maybe he shows up in like hologram or something like that. Here's the problem. You've gone out and you made CGI Luke, right? Basically he just stood there. Yeah. You want to try and animate that dude and that dude's face. You can't keep him covered all the time. The Tarkin, what we saw in Rogue One with Tarkin is that walking around having more parts, the longer you see that, the more distracting it gets.
Sure.
From cinematically. they're doing an amazing job of fucking making this as real as they possibly can. And however they wrote the story to include Luke. I mean, let's face it. You don't do this haphazardly.
Mm-hmm.
But to incorporate a more live action Luke with the CGI, the longer it's there, the more it's going to take away from it. And not just us. That's going to be the fucking the casuals too.
Yeah.
Because we have to have a conversation about what we're going to do to keep the casuals engaged in what is now fully engulfed in a fucking Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And the danger of putting somebody in there just for the sake of doing it. And I think this is where guys like Big Sweden and people are like, we don't need Skywalkers in here. Because as soon as you do, you can't unintroduce a fucking Skywalker into this.
Right. But at the same time, it's such a big galaxy. And whenever we get to a point where we're not dealing with Force users, then yeah, Luke doesn't have to be involved. But like I said before, that was the, Favreau and Filoni's choice from the very get-go, which they probably knew. They probably knew they were doing this from the start.
Yeah, they had to have. They had to have known. It's the idea, and Mark Hamill put it out there too, since we're still talking about Luke. Mark Hamill put out there on Instagram and Twitter. He's like, I think he started out trolling. It was like, has anybody seen any good...
What, Mark Hamill was trolling?
Yeah.
No.
Have anybody seen any good shows? And then he made a post, and it's actually really fucking poignant when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
This series managed to keep Grogu, this guy,
mm-hmm.
this marketing fucking gem, kept this a secret through the fucking holiday season. And also,
to respond to that.
You know what, bitch? kept it through the holiday season and everything else. And Mark Hamill apparently had known about this for a year.
Yeah.
So they kept the secret for a year. The fact that they could actually still do that is remarkable.
Yeah.
Is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, no, and I certainly commend them for that. Their ability to keep the shit under wraps has gotten really, really good. But
yeah, I think we beat the Luke horse to death.
Yeah. So moving on to the last part of this episode. Well, what we thought was the last part. Fucking Mando gives Grogu to Luke after this super emotional scene where he's fucking holding him. He's telling him you got to go with this guy. Takes off his helmet, right? Has this emotional scene where he's connecting with the child without his helmet on. So I told you I watch a lot of reaction videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen so many grown adults cry over a single scene of anything. Like every reaction video I watch, they're all fucking just bawling their eyes out.
Yeah.
When Mando's handing off Baby Yoda, especially when he took off his helmet. Oh
yeah.
Man, people just lost it.
And it's a testament to how well Filoni and Favreau and these individual directors, they made the portrayal of the child's connection to Din Djarin, made this connection so strong that when the separation that inevitably was going to happen, when it actually happened, you have that crescendo moment.
Yeah.
That it hit every time. My wife hasn't seen it yet because we're still a couple episodes. I think we're in chapter 13 right now.
Okay.
For her watching. So we have to catch up a little bit, but it'll be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the how do you say at any point that the show didn't do everything it was supposed to do?
Right. Yeah. Because that emotional reaction from everybody who watched it was a testament to exactly how they built this. They built that connection between Grogu and Din, and yeah, they paid it off perfectly to the point where now it's like, fuck, what's going to happen?
Now what? And that's the question for us now. Now what?
And I think your point earlier is probably going to be the closest to what we're going to get, because there's no fucking way that Disney and Lucasfilm are going to let them just like write Grogu off of the fucking show at this point. No. So he's coming back, probably coming back sooner than a lot of people expect. I don't know how, but there's no fucking way this cash cow is not going to be right back in the fucking show.
It has to be, because all the casuals that are watching this show, the Baby Yoda show, if you want them to come back, they're going to have to tease the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, season 3 of The Mandalorian. They don't give a fuck about the Book of Boba Fett. We'll get to there.
Yeah.
The casuals don't give a fuck about that. Now, that's for us.
Right.
That's Fett is for us.
Yeah.
But there'll be some tease going into fucking season 3 where this dude is going to be in trouble somehow.
Yeah.
And then Mandalorian is going to go and fucking rescue him. And that's how they'll do it. Right? Because we know Luke, the best line, again, I have to give credit where credit's due. The best line I've heard so far about the Grogu is from Big Swede. And he said, the kid has survived one school shooting. What are the chances he survives another one?
God damn.
Because that's the problem, right? we know that there's we know what happens at fucking Luke's Jedi Academy, right? There's a lot of dead bodies thrown around. So the idea, like, you start thinking about, like, oh, the little guy's going to get fucking killed in that sequence. Me personally, I think he escapes another school shooting. Like, he does.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever reason, you know, however this story decides it's going to go. But I think he's going to get himself into trouble either with Luke or without Luke, or something's going to happen that's going to bring the two back together, you know, and it'll go from there. I mean, I agree with you. You can't have this show right now without Grogu.
Yeah.
You just can't.
He's half of the show, ultimately.
He's fucking 95% of the show. I mean, let's be honest. Like, there's those of us who walk around with raging erections because fucking we get to see the fucking Fett armor walking around in some form or fashion. You know, before we saw Boba Fett, we kind of saw Boba Fett because he was wearing very similar armor. Yeah. So we were getting that. The casuals, they don't give a fuck. They do not give a fuck. They care about this guy. You know, the Din Djarin, they're like, oh, okay, whatever. You know, and you know, the guys like Bill Burr and these other, you know, stragglers, they couldn't even tell you who Cara Dune is. They don't give a shit, right? But they care about what happens to the green guy. Yeah. And you're not going to have a successful season without him.
Nope, I agree. So, yeah, how they do that, we have yet to find out. We got to wait until December of 21 when season 3 debuts. What's up?
That's Zoom calls. The age of this Zoom thing. You know, this sidebar of, we live in this world now where everything's being done over video, right? Because of COVID and teleworking and all this other shit. And we're never going to escape it now. This virus has provided the threshold for us to cross into where the actual interacting between human beings is starting to lessen. Right. We're getting closer to, like, the Minority Report and shit like that. Like,
or even fucking Ready Player One. Yeah. Very similar to that style.
And I'm almost through Ready Player 2. It's tough because I don't have time to listen as much. But yeah, it's the Zoom call, the interaction, like, it's so part of our fucking vernacular now.
Yeah. And for context for the audio audience, in the chat, Big Swede mentioned Zoom calls between Mando and Grogu.
Right.
Good shit.
And Lunar Girl say, like, as we were talking about, Din promised he'll be back for Grogu, or the promise that he'll see him again.
Yeah.
As I think it was his act.
And it'll probably be sooner than later, unless they do a time skip, which I guess is altogether possible.
It's sure. But again,
you still got the Bo-Katan issue also. That's a more immediate thing that's probably got to get resolved.
Yeah, you've got, like, what we haven't talked about at all during all this is the fact that you have a Moff. You have Moff Gideon fucking incarcerated right now. At some point, the Empire still exists, right? The not shards. What am I looking for? Remnants.
Remnant, yeah.
Yeah, the remnant. Why shards?
Well,
Ready Player 2.
And we know Thrawn is around in this world as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, Ahsoka's going to take care of that. I think Thrawn. I'll put it. I don't have $1 on me, but I'll put another $1 in it that says that Thrawn doesn't give two fucks about the Empire. Whatever Thrawn is doing is for Thrawn. It's nothing to do with the Empire.
Maybe.
I think I've actually said that on a previous show too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a Gideon. We have Moff Gideon here. And the Empire, this remnant. Like, and now you have this ship too. You have all this fucking stuff. What next?
Yeah.
The culmination of this to me is going to be another Siege of Mandalore. You know, it would go back. You have a comment in here that was kind of glassed over, literally, when they talk about how they turned Mandalore to glass.
Yeah, Boba Fett said that to Bo-Katan. Right. Like, the Empire turned Mandalore to glass. It's right. Like, What does that mean?
Well, I mean, we know how that we use that in the military. Like that's like after you go and nuke the desert, right? And you turn it to glass. I think that's why they're using that reference. You've never heard that?
No.
Oh God, you're such a Winnie Hut Jr.
What does that mean?
So you don't watch SpongeBob either.
No.
You want to get it. Winnie Hut Jr.
That's my mother doing a podcast, Mom.
Dave's saying he doesn't have time to read the book as a teaser for Gen X Pod.
All right, so we have to wrap this up in the next 15 to 20 minutes because food's going to be ready and we're going to eat between shows.
Yes.
So
as should the rest of you.
Let's talk about the post-credit sequence.
Okay. Yes, we have to do that.
So I completely forgot about this. Somebody reminded me, or somebody mentioned it fairly early on.
I think it was in the cantina.
Yeah, and then by the time I actually got to watch it, I think it was Lunar Girl who sent me a message and was like, "Hey, don't forget to watch the post-credit sequence." We had already turned off the TV. I had turned off our Apple TV, and we had like kind of spread out amongst the house. Then I saw her message. I'm like, "Fuck!" I'm like, "Everybody, get back in here! There's a post-credit sequence." Starts off with the twin sons of Tatooine.
Right.
Pans over to Jabba's palace. Immediately recognizable.
Yeah. It's like they took the cut sequence from like
Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see fucking Bib Fortuna, who has been eating a lot of tuna.
Bib Fat Tuna.
Yeah. Since the last time we saw him. Basically took Jabba's place on the fucking throne or whatever you want to call it.
Had a hot Twi'lek tied up,
as you know, as one would have.
Yes, exactly.
And
that's what they're there for.
And yeah, Fennec and Boba Fett blast their way in, and there's no dialogue or nothing. Like Bib Fortuna's like, "Boba, I thought you were dead," and he just puts his blaster in his face and just boom. So fucking just like that, he's dead. Throws him off the throne. Boba sits down. Homegirl grabs a drink, sits next to him. And it pans out, and you just get the Book of Boba Fett coming December of 21. Now, we didn't have a whole lot. We had to stew over the fucking weekend. Like, well, what does this mean? Is it a standalone show, or is this where they're going with Mando season 3? There were a lot of theories floating around.
Right.
Thankfully, we actually had to delay this podcast from when we were going to record it yesterday because this morning we got confirmation from Disney and Lucasfilm. It is indeed a standalone series for Boba Fett.
It's what I think got everybody was the timing.
Yeah.
Like the timing of the release and everything else.
Because December of 21 is when Mando season 3 also starts.
And the book, right? The book of Boba Fett. When you have the chapter, like they're going with this whole chapter thing with the Mandalorian.
Yep.
And then having the book of Fett so all the Aftermath books and the series that we read in between the movies for the sequel trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all had these independent stories within the books.
Yep.
Right. It jumped around a lot like that. So my initial thing was like, okay, shit, this is like, all right, we went from chapter 16. Now we're in the Book of Fett for a couple of chapters.
Right.
And we're going to jump back. I like the fact that it's going to be separate because I think the Book of Fett is not for the casuals. I think that's going to be for us.
Yeah, for the hardcore fans. This is the fan service, but if they continue doing what they've been doing, this is fan service done right.
I would agree.
For all intents and purposes.
I think so. One of the things that had been coming up in a lot of discussions and Big Sweet's tattoo guy had basically went on live and was watching Return of the Jedi, and the idea that Bib Fortuna survived the fucking barge. Explosion.
Right.
Like somehow it's not in the movie. It's not in Return of the Jedi that he would still be alive.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to extrapolate now that because we didn't see him die in the barge explosion, that he somehow escaped.
Sure.
To me, it's plausible. Like, I know there's a lot of people throwing a bullshit flag up there, but Boba Fett's supposed to be fucking dead.
Indeed.
I mean, we saw him fall into the Sarlacc pit. So this idea that in Star Wars that somebody that we didn't see die could still be alive doesn't bother me at all.
Think about it like this. You're some like pussy little sidekick to Jabba. You're on the sail barge. Everything's going well until this fucking bitch chokes your boss to death. And then a Jedi jumps onto your fucking thing and is wrecking shit up top. What are you going to do? You're going to be like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Peace out.
You know?
I'll jump out the fucking window.
Yeah. That's not that hard to fucking figure out.
I would agree. I didn't need to see Bib Fortuna alive. And quite frankly, I didn't even think twice about it. I mean, yeah, I thought you think that everybody that was involved with Jabba at that point had died in the barge.
Sure.
Because that's obviously the way they wrote in Return of the Jedi. There's no thread out of Return of the Jedi. I was like, okay, Bib Fortuna is going to have a fucking side quest.
Yeah.
Like nobody thought that. Nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
This is the writers saying, okay, we never saw him die, so we could put him in here.
Sure.
If they could have very easily put another hut in there. Because we've seen multiple huts. We know there's multiple huts throughout the galaxy.
Because it's hut space.
Yeah, this
there's a hierarchy and
all these gangsters. I could have very easily walked in there and seen another hut in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bib Fortuna was probably it was fan service for us to and it's, to me, it's plausible. I know there's people out there there's enough people out there that are having a tough time with that, but here's the reality. We never saw him die. He didn't get choked out by fucking Leia, slave Leia. There was time between Luke's battle upstairs and when he kicked the fucking blaster into the deck. There would be time for several people to escape.
Yeah, like start a stopwatch from that moment where Luke fucking clamps onto the side of the thing. That guy opens the window and he's like, whoop, throws him out.
Yeah.
From the time, from that moment to where fucking he blows up the shit with its own gun and fucking Tarzan's out of there. There was probably time to get to some kind of an escape pod, or just like you said, jump out the fucking window.
Yep.
Hopefully I land in a soft pile of sand.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's soft enough for the droids when they hit. They went fucking ankle deep into it.
Yeah.
But it was out there. There's people out there that had issues with it, and I could see that. But in Star Wars, I'll always revert back to Boba Fett because the Sarlacc was supposed to make dead upon dead. The dude's supposed to be in digest forever.
Yeah.
And even in Expanded Universe, though, Boba was alive and somehow lived through it.
And I think
we're going to get that.
Yeah, we'll get an explanation. It'll probably be like a 2-sentence comment that he makes fairly early on in the show itself, and then it'll be done with.
I bet you in the Book of Fett, we're going to get a full-on sequence on how he survived the
like a flashback?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if he was in the armor, as a body double, you don't have to have Fett in there. You can have a body double and go through the sequence of what was happening, how long it took him to get out. 100% they're going to answer all that. Otherwise, why have it?
No, I feel it. So, but yeah,
stay tuned, folks.
And honestly, I think this, if it's done right, because again, the Boba Fett show, as announced this morning, is going to be produced by Favreau, Filoni, and fucking Richard Rodriguez, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This is now going to be the 4th live action show that Favreau and Filoni are producing concurrently for Disney Plus, and it's all in the same timeline in this shared fucking Mandalorian universe.
Dude, I want to be in a diner, right? Or these dudes are sitting around fucking having breakfast, just bullshitting about what's they have Star Wars. They are at the reins for everything now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are driving the fucking sleigh.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, people, because they've set the bar so fucking high with this series, though.
Mm-hmm.
But with the production quality and the lines and everything is so high. And the idea that it could fall is just terrifying.
Right. And Lunar Girl's point in the chat, and that's what I was driving at, is there's no way we're not going to see some crossover between these 4 concurrent shows now. It really
Favreau
feels
loves that
like
shit. That's what he did with the MCU. I mean,
right. And that's what it feels like. It feels like this is going to be the Star Wars version of the MCU. These 4 shows running concurrently in the same timeline.
And I should probably feel better about that, but I'm not really interested in that because I'm not a Marvel guy. But if it's done right, okay.
Yeah. And so far, I mean, they haven't done us wrong yet.
Yeah. And Favreau we trust.
Yeah.
And Favreau and Filoni we trust.
And quite frankly, looking at season 2 of Mandalorian as a whole, this season was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Aside from maybe one episode that was a little on the dull side, like the second episode, I think it was, the season's been fucking off the charts, and
Yeah.
it's been meeting and exceeding our expectations up to this point.
Yeah, it's insane. It's so nice.
Yeah.
After your failures in the cave with Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, it feels good to be in Star Wars again.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary, I think. 'Cause
Right.
We had this, right? We had this with fucking Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're building up those
We're building
expectations, right?
just to be crashing down.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah. Until Kathleen Kennedy decides, no. This isn't what we need. What we need are new characters. They all have to be transgender, people of color, and it has to be more about, talking about the military industrial complex and not these stories that you idiot fans like.
Yeah.
But
if you're watching us on YouTube right now, I'm showing off some recent pop.
the sacred pops.
The sacred pops. The collection grows.
Yep.
I got the child with. I mean, we know the child still has the seal of Mandalore on him. So, as you can see it right there. Yes. It's good. It's good to be a Star Wars fan.
Yep.
But if you are watching us in the All Things Star Wars podcast, or you're listening to us, please, pretty please, with sugar on it, clean the fucking car and get over to From a Gen X Point of View podcast. It's on everything. Yeah. It's what RSS feed we're using now was so much better than the one we were using prior, because now we don't even have to think about it. It's already there.
Yep.
Like, we found out by accident that we're on Audible. And for those of you who left us reviews on Audible, stay tuned for the Gen X Point of View, which is going to be following, not immediately following, but following this particular episode.
Yep. We're going to have a brief break to eat.
Yep. We'll read the 5-star reviews. From a Gen X Point of View, the weekly show. Find us on all your social media. You can start by going to podbelly.com, and all our social media links are right there at podbelly.com.
Yep. And that's going to be our focus for the next at least few months, I would imagine, until more Star Wars content gets rolling out. We're going to be strictly focusing on From a Gen X Point of View, doing that show, covering a whole wide variety of topics. But as we're getting deep into the holiday season, our next 2 episodes are going to be Christmas related and New Year's related.
Hell
yeah, it's going to be a good time.
This New Year's got a lot riding on it. There's a lot of people like, oh my God, thank God we made it to 2021.
Mm-hmm. Well, my favorite meme was the one that I shared last week, I think it was, of the dyslexic Mayan who accidentally wrote 2012 instead of 2021. And it's the Leo guy with the
the goatee.
Yeah.
It's good. It's fucking memes.
Speaking of memes,
generation.
The last thing I'll say before we close up this episode, Dragon Buddy shared a meme. I think it was this morning in the cantina, and it was that meme where it's fucking Ellen Page and another guy driving by each other and looking.
Yeah.
And it was fucking Boba Fett coming to Moff Gideon's ship after everything's said and done, and then Luke leaving Moff Gideon's ship after all said and done, and then both just looking at each other like, what the fuck? Because obviously the last time we saw them both together on screen was Return of the Jedi. So, oh God, I would just love to see that fucking scene in the show.
You might get your wish.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling Boba Fett is not sitting on Jabba's throne to fucking be good for the universe.
That is a fact.
Yeah. So maybe there would be some Jedi influence to try and check Boba Fett's expansionism.
Ooh. All right. Well, we'll have to find out next December, a year from now.
Fuck.
Sucks we got to wait that long, but I think the payoff is going to be.
It will be.
It's going to be there.
Fucking shit goes flying by anyway. Next thing you know, you'll be celebrating your 11th anniversary being 34.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. Remember, guys, this is probably our last All Things Star Wars for a while. So follow us on From a Gen X Point of View, because Dave and I still do podcasts every single week.
Yep.
Be it under one banner or the other.
And we need subscribers.
Yes, please do that. We need subscribers to our YouTube, especially. Yeah. Especially the Gen X POV YouTube.
Yeah. And we need to get over 100 so I can get a URL and we can start pushing that a little bit harder than we are now.
Yes.
I would really enjoy that. And yeah, we need a producer too.
Yeah. So Jamie, get on that.
Yeah, Jamie, where you at? Fucker.
All right. Well, it's been fun. Great fucking season, as I said. I'm happy.
I am
And
also happy. I got enough in there.
And I feel like this is a great closure point for this season of All Things Star Wars.
Indeed.
So thank you, everybody, for watching or listening, however you're consuming us. And until next time, Dave and everybody else, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. Okay, now what do I click?
All right. Export audio. Let me text Kristen really quick and see if she's going to bring the food out here or if we need to go inside. Are you bringing the food out here, comma, or should we come inside? Question mark. I like doing the voice texting now. Like I've
in the car, especially
just anywhere. Like as you just saw, I just did it like with my phone right in front of me, but I can do it so much faster talking than fucking typing.
Right.
So she's bringing it out.
Sweet. All right, we'll clear space. Are we going to no post show? We're not going to eat live, are we?
No. Once the food gets here, we'll kill the stream and then I'll start the new one.
Okay.
It'll be under a new episode title and everything. Right now, I just got to get this audio exported.
So many childs. And I don't even have all of them.
There's more?
Oh, yeah.
How many more are there?
There's at least 3 more
God
versions
damn.
of the child. I have one that I'm hoping is going to come through Dragon Buddy because they had ordered 2 of them.
Right. I do remember you telling me about that one.
That's the one with the eggs.
Oh, yeah. The fucking eggs.
Yeah, there's fucking tons of these. So this, I'll say for the limited amount of post show that we're going to do for this one.
Mm.
So this guy, at work, we had like a safety down day, and they had a speaker come in, and they part of the presentation they did, they gave out like awards for participation. So I participated a little bit, and I got a $10 Amazon gift card. Like, oh, fucking sweet.
Nice.
I'm on.
Immediately goes to the pops.
I immediately went on to Amazon, right? Because it was one of those, here's your code, and you fucking opens Amazon for you.
Yeah.
And this is sitting right there. Like the code pops up as you have $10 in there, and this guy's sitting there.
And you might be interested in.
Right. So it's sitting there. I had $10. I ended up paying $5 for this.
Okay.
It was like $14.98.
Oh, okay.
So I spent $5 on this guy.
Good.
Because of my participation in that fucking thing. So ordinarily I probably wouldn't have spent the money because I'm trying to behave myself. Show for the benefit of those that are still in the thing. This guy, Han Solo with Tauntaun and fucking baby killer lightsaber, Hell's to the yeah. This thing is actually pretty fucking sweet. I looked at these when they first came out. This is an Amazon exclusive. And I was like, yeah, you know what? The only big one I have is the fucking Leia on speeder bike. Black Friday. This was on the site for $11. It was usually like $24.
Nice.
So I'm like, for $11 fucking dollars, yeah, I'll do it. For an Amazon exclusive, badass Han Solo. Because at one point I wanted to have all the Han Solos.
Yeah.
Like, and being a Han Solo completionist.
And looking at the back, it's like 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes
Back.
Yeah,
It's got all the badging for 40th anniversary. Yeah, it was fucking. It was an easy sell, honestly, for fucking $11. Even on my shoestring budget for Christmas stuff.
Agreed. Yeah. I have to run into the house for a second. I got to grab my water. I'm gonna get an update on the food. Should we end the stream, or do you want to continue to entertain the folks?
We can end it.
All right.
We'll save entertainment for a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll be back in probably about half an hour for the From a Gen X Point of View episode
16, 17.
Which will be our Christmas episode, the Christmas Story versus Christmas Vacation. Very excited about this.
Dude. So before we end the stream, because my cousin Ricky, I think, is in the chat. He got, I think we talked about it on the show. There was a Top Gun Transformer that was coming out.
Oh,
the F-14.
Yeah.
My cousin finally got it. Dude, it is everything you would hope it would be and more.
Yeah.
I mean, there it is the F-14. Right?
Looks good.
And then here it is when it's transformed.
Nice.
They see the helmet,
the
Maverick helmet, and it's holding a fucking volleyball. Dude, the thing is fucking phenomenal. Oh my God, Rick, I am so jealous of your toys.
That's good stuff. All right.
It's beautiful.
Let's end this now.
Yep.
So I can go and do my stuff.
Yep.
We will be back. Don't go too far, folks.
Yep. Peace. We're going to do